Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Ultimate Bucket List, and today I'm going to be showing you around the most famous cricket ground in the world. Lord's Cricket Ground, the spiritual home of cricket. Named after former player Thomas Lord, it's the world's most famous cricket ground for several reasons, but most notably, this is where the laws of the game were invented, and the owners of the ground, Marylebone Cricket Club, were the original governing body of the sport. This place is effectively Mecca, Jerusalem, Rome. All the most famous cricket players you've ever heard of have graced this field, and some of the most iconic moments in the history of the sport have happened right here. It's an interesting mixture of old Victorian brickwork and super modern architecture. To some people, this is a complete Frankenstein of a stadium, but to others, it adds to the story of the illustrious history of this place. Let's have a look around and you can decide for yourself. There are signs at the tube station telling you exactly where to go, and it's fairly easy to find. You'll just need to go down St John's Wood Road, where you'll eventually get to the Grace Gates, and this is the entry point for the stadium tours. After a quick security check, they advise you to use the restroom immediately, as you'll have no access to one during the tour. You'll need to walk around the ground a little bit in order to find the tours and the Cricket Museum, which is where the tour begins. I advise you to get here about half an hour before your start time, because it gives you time to check out the Cricket Museum here. It's a very nice two-storey cricket museum, full of ancient relics, equipment from former players, this exhibit showing off women's cricket, and there's lots of historical paraphernalia that fans of the sport will recognise instantly. The most famous of which is probably this thing here, the original Ashes urn. This is permanently kept on display here at Lord's. Whenever England play Australia for the Ashes urn, they actually hoist a complete replica, but the original is always kept here. But spend your time walking around and you'll find memorabilia from some of your favourite players. Popular with the Indian contingent is anything to do with Sachin Tendulkar, arguably one of the best players to ever play the game. And for the English fans, the boots of W.G. Grace. Your tour actually starts here at the museum, and you'll get a bit of history about some of the more famous artefacts, like the Ashes urn. Another one that's popular with the Indian contingent especially is the 1983 Prudential World Cup. For those of you who don't know the story, India beat the heavily favoured West Indies in one of the biggest upsets in world sporting history. This would be their first World Cup, and it's the start of the rise of the superpower that is Indian cricket. But because they changed sponsors at the next World Cup, the original cup for some reason stayed here. In theory, this thing should belong to India, but what do I know? The tour then continues outside, and then you get to march into the famous Pavilion. This is the original Victorian end of the stadium, and arguably the most characterful. You'll go up a flight of stairs and into the famous Long Room. This is the room in which members of the cricket club generally watch their games and generally congregate. It's also the room that you'll have to walk through in order to access the field as a player. But at the moment, it's pretty empty, save for a couple of members who've come in for a cup of coffee. But it's nice to see some of the paintings and the portraits on the walls. And the view from the pavilion, as you can imagine, first class. Whilst we're talking about membership actually, if you remember here at Marylebone Cricket Club, you get some amazing privileges such as guaranteed seating at any cricket match, and to use this place as and when you see fit. You can even walk the field if you want to. It's like being part of the mafia, except that you're not doing anything illegal. If you do want to be a member at Marylebone Cricket Club, there is a waiting list of 29 years. Now I can't be bothered waiting that long, so it's time to leave the long room and go up the stairs to check out the home team's dressing room. The home team, which is usually either Middlesex or England, takes up dressing room number 1. Unfortunately, it's not exactly the most modern facility that you've ever seen. In fact, it's pretty rather quite basic. Remember, you're in a Victorian building with Victorian architecture. They've got basic seating. Hey, they've even got a coffee machine up here. But the most interesting thing is the honours board, where if you've played exceptionally in one particular game or test, you'll forever be immortalised right here on the boards. And the view isn't bad either. Next up is this very long corridor with lots of historic photographs, and this leads to the away team's dressing room. And once again, every player leaving each dressing room will have to go down these stairs and through the long room in order to access the field. There's a portrait of the Queen here, which is ironic given that she absolutely hates this sport, before you go into dressing room number 5, aka the away team's dressing room. And here, it's pretty much exactly the same as the home team's dressing room, except that it's mirrored. But it's cool to see some of the names that have actually graced this dressing room. For any Indian cricket fans watching, this is the seat of Sachin Tendulkar. This is where he prefers to sit, right here next to the Pavilion balcony. You get a short talk as to what happens in here, but the best thing to do is to step out onto the balcony and have a look at the field from out here. Remember, you're standing on the balcony where some of the most famous players of the world have stood themselves. And the view from the balcony? Pretty damn good. Anyway, you'll be led back down the stairs, and bear in mind that apart from the nice portraits that are on the walls, this is the exact route that the players will walk down in order to access the field. And one of the traditions here at Lord's is that it doesn't matter whether you're a home player or an away player, the members will warmly clap you onto the field, and when you're out, the members will warmly clap you off the field. It's a mark of respect, and it's one of the unique things that happens here at Lord's. You'll then come across the garden outside the Warner stand. This is the members' private garden that they use to have their picnics, and this is where you'll also find the statue of England's greatest ever cricket player, Dr. William Gilbert Grace. And when you walk around the stadium, you'll notice that there's lots and lots and lots of food and drink outlets. You have to remember that cricket sometimes lasts all day, and people get rather quite hungry and thirsty, so there's no shortage of food and drink options available to you here. But anyway, let's take the stairs up to the grandstand, and this is where normal people like me and you can watch cricket. Even though the pricing in the grandstand can be quite expensive, it's actually quite a nice view and you get a decent quality seat. You can see pretty much everything here, from the media centre, a nice shot of the pavilion, and directly opposite us, the original weather vane from the original Lord's Cricket Ground. And you get a short talk about the history of the stadium and why some parts of the stadium are significantly newer than others, before you're allowed to walk around the seats yourselves and try and take some decent photos and videos. When you walk out of the grandstand, you'll come across the Father Time wall. Now you can actually pay money to have your name engraved onto this wall. But as you can tell from the amount of Marylebone Cricket Club logos on the walls, it's usually the members that do this. At the north end of the stadium, you'll find the practice ground. This is where teams will traditionally practice and warm up before entering the field of play. It's also home to the National Indoor Cricket Centre. Currently, there's some kind of kids game going on. As much as I'd like to stick around and watch it, we've still got the rest of the tour to do. It's time to head up the lift and go into the most modern bit of Lord's Cricket Ground. This is the JP Morgan Media Centre, which is where all of the journalists will come and report on the games. Media from all the way around the world will take up residence here on a game day, and it definitely is as modern as it looks from the outside. You get some pretty nice views from up here, and you'll get a short talk as to what's actually going on. But look at this shot very carefully. What do you notice? Lord's Cricket Ground is famous for what's called the slope, which means that the field of play is actually slanted. Believe it or not, one part of Lord's Cricket Ground is 2.5 metres lower than the opposite side. And if you look at this video clip again, you can see just how severe the slope actually is. It definitely wasn't obvious when we were in the Pavilion or the Grandstand, but from up here in the media centre, it's so obvious that the floor is just not even. And I've heard of the slope before, but I didn't think it was all that bad. Not until I saw it for myself. Believe it or not, that's the end of the tour. You'll walk around the cricket ground admiring some more of this Victorian architecture before they let you out at the club shop. It's not a particularly very big club shop and there's not all that much to buy, but if you are a cricket fan, pick up a couple of souvenirs from here.
Okay Nin, I'm sold. What do I need to do? Well, you need to come here to Lord's Cricket Ground. It's situated in the north section of central London, and the easiest way to get here is to use the tube system. The nearest tube station is St John's Wood. Alternatively, you could use Baker Street, but it involves significantly more walking. From St John's Wood station, it's about a 5 to 8 minute walk to the entrance of the Grace Gates. If you're looking to take a bus here, I'll leave the bus numbers on the screen right now, and every taxi driver knows where Lord's Cricket Ground is. Be careful though, because if you are driving yourself here, the parking around the stadium is largely residential, so bear that in mind. The cost to do Lord's Cricket Ground tour? It costs about £27, so it's not the cheapest thing that you'll do here in central London, but for that you get a 90-minute guided tour. And if you are a fan of cricket, it comes recommended. Is there anything else I need to know? Yes, for all the tours, I highly advise that you arrive half an hour before your start time. This will give you enough time to go around the museum. Also, there's no flash photography or videography around Lord's Cricket Ground. However, you can take as many photos as you like. So guys, that was the home of cricket. And if you are a cricket fan and you really want to see Lord's, I definitely recommend it. If you have enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share and subscribe. Comment or ask any questions in that comment section below. And if you've got any other bucket list ideas, you know what to do, tweet them at me. If I get enough suggestions, I'll probably make a video about it. So guys, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.